Hello and welcome back to yet another Geek Show where I need about Tree Fitty. This is your host, Alex Ecker.
This is your host, Dalton Munnell.
This is your host, Josh here.
What the hell is up, guys?
I gave him $1.
Why'd you give him $1? He keeps coming back because you keep giving him $1.
Oh,
right.
man.
Well, I guess the Loch Ness Monster is what is up. Josh, you came back for another episode. That means you didn't leave us permanently.
Yeah,
it feels like you're going to
really
stay.
I tried really hard not to get additional brain damage this week. And, I don't know, results I think depend on who you talk to, but I'm here, so I'm going to do my best.
I mean, we're arguing about a Loch Ness Monster right now.
That is absolutely
so we're off to a
something
great
I would have
start.
done before getting hit in the head.
And during.
man.
During.
Yeah.
So, guys, I upgraded my computer.
No.
Yeah.
Those parts you showed me before.
Go on.
Yeah. Did we talk about this last episode?
Oh, wait, no, that was off air.
No.
Let's cut this part out.
Oh, shit. Okay. No. No, I upgraded from a GTX 950 graphics card to the GTX 1660 Ti. And I got the RGB one, so that way it does all pretty lights and stuff.
Yeah, you turn it blue to make it run cooler. You turn it red to make it run faster.
Of course, red is the fastest color, as everyone knows.
Yeah. Right now it's at green for pretty. And then I upgraded my monitor, so that way I have a 2650 by 1440p monitor now. And man, does I have a lot of space.
Man, you have actual workspace now. That means I don't have to edit anything anymore.
Well, I'm still editing stuff, you know.
Jeez. All right. So what have you played with this fancy graphics card of yours?
Minecraft.
Yeah. No.
Now with real-time lighting.
Yeah.
Ray
Did you see
tracing.
that? I was about to ask you if you've seen that ray tracing
Wait,
thing.
did they actually add ray
tracing.
tracing to Minecraft?
It's a mod.
It looks stupid good though.
That's incredible.
I don't think it actually uses like the unique hardware parts of the RTX series to do it. I think anyone can run it, but yeah, it looks really shockingly good.
Yeah, genuinely. But no, I've been playing a couple of different games to see what it really looks like on this new higher resolution because my old monitor, in fact, I'm looking at it. It is 1680 by 1050 was my old monitor. But I tried out Doom, which looks really good now. I tried out Final Fantasy 15 on Windows, which looks really good too. They have that hair and like turf physics and stuff. And though I can't have both running at the same time, let's be fair. Nobody cares about the grass. They all care about the hair in Final Fantasy.
That's exactly it. May as well put everything else on low.
Yeah, so I just put everything on the hair. Although I was running into a couple of weird bugs during my gameplay of it, like one of the main characters, not like one of the characters you play as, but one of the main like sub characters in the story, you were supposed to drive to them and they completely disappeared and everyone was talking to this invisible thing and then all the dialogue stopped and my character was stuck in this event and I couldn't do anything but roam around this small part of the map. So I just got stuck in this event and I had to quit.
Well, at least this didn't happen 40 hours in.
Yeah, really.
All right, guys. So while I was on my work travels we talked about last week when I got to play Star Wars, I needed to kill all kinds of time on planes and in airports, and thus took my Switch with me, and I put my time into Mario Kart 8, which I assume everyone's played.
Oh, yeah. I've played
I
mostly.
think so.
I was one of the 4 people on Earth that had a Wii U.
On the Wii U.
So I played it on there. I actually haven't played the Switch version yet.
I think the Switch version added characters.
I'm pretty sure they wrapped in all the DLC from the Wii U version. And they probably added, I think they added, didn't they add the Inklings from Splatoon?
Yeah, those are in there.
Yeah, I think that's exclusive, and everything else is like DLC from the first game.
Link is in there. Firstly, I'll just say I've played nearly all of these Mario Kart games, I think, except for Double Dash and whatever was on a DS or 3DS or whatever. So all but 2 of these I've played, and this is probably the best one. If you're going to play one Mario Kart game, this is the one. That said,
Any particular reason why?
I think it just learns from the previous games. It just learns what works, and the level design gets better and better. And it's always been kind of a staple of the series that they'll recreate levels from previous entries, but, you know, do it with better graphics and update the music and everything. And this has plenty of that, so it pulls out a bunch of the best tracks from previous games, and then all the new tracks are good as well, and the recreated tracks incorporate the newer game mechanics. So this has the mechanic of your cart can A, turn into some kind of like hover-like vehicle, and B, it can turn into like a glider, and so the levels are kind of readjusted to incorporate those mechanics. I will criticize, though, that those mechanics didn't really feel useful to me. Like, they just kind of, they did it because a Sonic and Sega racing game did it first, but it actually affected the gameplay in a meaningful way in that racing game. And so even though it looks cool to see like your wheels shift and turn into a hover vehicle and that kind of stuff, it doesn't really, the gameplay doesn't turn into a different thing when that happens. And when you glide, I mean, in this Sonic and Sega game, I'm talking about like it's actual flying. You're now racing in an aircraft, but in this Mario Kart game, it's just literally a glider. You took a big jump and now you're slowly coming back down, but there's not really, as far as I can tell, a lot of strategy into what you need to do once that happens. So I'll kind of criticize that that's a meaningless decision, although it looks cool. I guess there's that. It feels fun. It's not harming anything. They just could have done more with it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the hover cart system was designed entirely to be like, hey, you're driving on the ceiling now. Isn't that cool? But it's exactly the same. Like, it looks exactly the same because they flipped the screen for you.
Yeah, it's exact. Like, they could have done that exact mechanic without the excuse of the hover vehicle and just not explained it. Yeah, you can drive on the wall now. It is what it is. Don't worry about it. And there's huge chunks of time where you're doing the hover vehicle thing, but you're not actually on a wall or ceiling. You're just driving like normal, and it's completely meaningless.
It does slightly change what happens when two carts bump into each other, though. So, you know, there's a very small gameplay difference to being in the hover mode.
Okay, there is that. You get a boost for hitting enemies.
Yeah, that's I think the only actual impact to gameplay that I can think of. I don't even think the physics on like drifting are any different when you're in a hover mode.
Yeah. But so I'm just going to point out a really strange decision they made involving like aspects they pulled out of other Nintendo franchises. So I loved that they incorporated classic F-Zero tracks. That was a super cool move, but is this the first time they've pulled from anything but Mario and Donkey Kong?
I think so. I'm pretty sure that the F-Zero track was one of the DLC packs for the Wii U version.
Yeah, and so they included characters from Splatoon and Zelda and Animal Crossing, made levels themed after all of those, made levels themed off of F-Zero. They didn't put Captain Falcon in the game.
Yeah, that really bothers me.
Why can't I be Captain Falcon and drive his vehicle while I'm driving through Mute City?
Nintendo probably figured that if they put Captain Falcon in the Mario Kart, that nobody would ever play any other character. And just to be fair, so that Mario and Link don't have their feelings hurt, they just had to set it out.
I certainly wouldn't have. Another minor nitpick that, again, doesn't really matter, but just I'm going to point it out because it's there. I played through, there's 12 cups. I played through them all on, what would the lowest be, 50 and 100 cc. And so I completed like, 3 stars every cup on both of those difficulties. I'll probably go up to the next difficulty and try to beat them, but not try to 3-star them. In any case, all I unlocked in that time was new vehicle parts, and I don't really care about the vehicle customization feature. But it used to be like you started out locked out of cups and you had to unlock them and characters by actually playing the game. But it looks to me me, at least so far, like you just start with everything. I mean, maybe there's something eventually, but I've put in a lot of playtime without unlocking anything but vehicle customization parts.
I actually do think that that's all that there is unlockable in that game.
Yeah, and so, I mean, maybe other people don't care because you're supposed to be spending most of your time in multiplayer anyway, so I guess most people want to start with everything already there. But, you know, I like to work on my skills alone first, and in the meantime, it'd be nice to have a bit of a meaningful reward system. Regardless, though, Mario Kart's a classic. I love the whole franchise. There's not a bad game in it, unless the ones I haven't played are bad, and this is still the best of them. I'm just nitpicking for fun.
Oh, I agree. Mario Kart 8 is so damn fun. I've been meaning to pick up the Switch version myself just so I can play it. I can bring it out again at parties without having to set up an entirely different system. Because it's probably I'm a little bit sad to hear that you haven't played Double Dash, because I know a lot of people, myself included, consider that to be the best Mario Kart in the franchise, but I think that 8 comes very close to it.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get there because we're going to let's play all of them. We've already let's played the Super Nintendo version. And and really, I was playing this game now thinking, oh, I better unlock all the stuff before it's time to let's play them. And nope, was not necessary.
And if you don't have my very specific set of kart parts unlocked, I'm not going to play with you. So you better play everything, Dalton.
You better have that Bowser kite. Yeah, exactly. All right, Josh, what do you got to talk about?
Let's see. So I don't know if I'm going to end up finishing this one because it's pretty hard, but I started playing the original Metroid for the first time.
Ooh.
This is honestly most of my experience with the Metroid franchise comes from the Metroid Prime trilogy. I'm that kind of horrible person. Which one? I have played through Metroid Fusion on the Game Boy Advance, which was a fantastic game, and I have owned Super Metroid for like 3 or 4 years. I bought the Super Nintendo cart at a retro gaming convention a few years back, and have since never opened it up or played it, even though I've been meaning to, because I know that game is fantastic, and I've watched it speed run on AGDQ however many years in a row now, so I probably know everything about that game. Anyway, I figured I'd go back and give the first entry a try since it's on the Nintendo Switch online service, and it cost me nothing to go check it out. It's really fun for like an NES game. It controls very well. Obviously, you
think it should be our next spotlight?
Well, I mean, I guess if we're going to spotlight it, then I have to go back and finish it. So that's fine.
I wasn't gonna make it the next thing we did, but we were gonna do it eventually. So
okay, well then maybe I won't say
too
much. Besides, having played for a few hours already, I've already kind of been frustrated by the way that some of the progression in this game is tied towards bombing random blocks that you had no indication of having to be able to have to block to open up a secret passageway, where the game gives you literally no indication. Like I've had to use a walkthrough to get to a couple power-ups that I have no idea how anybody could logically have been led to do this certain thing at a certain place to be able to do that. And that's kind of a relic of the time.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's always going to be a criticism of games of this era.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think that Metroid does it worse than any other games of the era, or even really better. You know, it's about the same. But the soundtrack's amazing. All right, well, let's spotlight it. I'll go back and finish it. Fine, you got me.
Alex, what do you got?
Man, I don't know. I've been kind of dealing with just more life struggly things than I've been able to play games for. Most of my free time was just trying to see like, oh, what's this game look like in high ultra full res, and I don't know. I've just been kind of like showboating it to myself and my wife. Like, hey, honey, come here. Look at Doom. Or like, come look at
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 15 compared
No,
to,
that's the routine after every upgrade. Actually, Josh,
Yeah.
have you ordered your upgrade?
I am still. I've got that big purchase anxiety. I still have all the parts in my shopping cart, but I have yet to pull the trigger. I do have a better monitor in the shopping cart now, so all of your incessant teasing has paid off.
Nice, wonderful. What's the spec? What are you going for?
Oh boy, I'm pretty sure I just bought the one, or I have the one that Alex posted in our private chat last week when you all were chastising me for not upgrading.
Yeah, okay,
Hey.
well, he's happy with it, so.
Yeah, if it's
Well,
working out for you, then I'll probably just stick with that.
Yeah, it's really good. But let's be fair. I wasn't gonna shit all over you like Dalton was. He's the resolution freak.
Well, hey, that's why I came to you guys with my rig before I bought it.
All right, well, we'll nitpick your rig some more after the
Fantastic.
recording, but
We'll spotlight it.
yeah, we'll do a spotlight on upgrading PCs.
Just do like a 3-minute episode about Josh's rig. Just be like, yeah, he got this, and this thing sucks, and then it ends.
Josh, you don't need 300 gigs of RAM.
Yeah, man.
Maybe you
All
don't.
right. Shit. Okay, so let's go to VR game of the week.
Which I can't participate in yet. Damn it.
So this week I went with another game like Read Out that wasn't made as a VR game. It was added later called Thumper. Alex, I know you've seen this, but Josh,
Doesn't ring a bell.
ring any bells?
No.
Oh, okay. So Thumper is a music rhythm game, but it's very different than every other one that's been put into VR, because every other rhythm VR game is about, you know, dancing or some approximation of dancing using your body. But this one, you just play with your keyboard or a controller, and it's not about your body. It's about really good, precise timing. And so the gameplay is, it's actually in third person. So you're a camera hovering behind your avatar you're controlling. And that avatar is this like spooky sci-fi like space beetle.
Okay.
And it is just flying down a usually one lane track, and these obstacles are coming at you, and it's things like, oh, there's this light on the ground, you have to hit A as you pass over it, or there's spikes on the track, jump over them, or there's these walls that will hurt you if you don't lean away from them as you're passing by. And then there's these big boss fights with these big, like, spooky, Lovecraft-esque creatures. And it just has this really unusual, unsettling vibe that is super cool to look at. Josh, go ahead and look this up on Steam just to see what I'm talking about with the visuals, because I'm not going to describe it well enough.
Okay.
But it's really... I guess what I like most about it is that it's a rhythm game where there's a sense of progression. You're constantly learning how to do new things, but the game never explains it to you. There's never a line of dialogue or a help box. It just kind of assumes, without telling you any controls, that you'll figure it out with context clues, what you need to do. Mm-hmm. And you do. And it's just one of the best examples of that I've seen, of a game teaching you to play it without words. Just a really good sense of progression. And I also appreciated that it wasn't afraid to get out of basic 4/4 rhythms. And so
nice.
Some of the challenge is that, like, you know, every move you need to make, whether it's pressing A on the things you pass over, jumping over an obstacle, hitting a wall the right way, it's all extremely rhythmic. Like, the sounds your creature is making is contributing to the soundscape and the music, but that music that's happening isn't necessarily in 4/4. It'll jump to 7/4 and just trust that you're going to figure it out and be okay. And
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, and it's just really sweet music, because usually, like, rhythm game, you're going to expect K-pop or some really terrible modern American pop music. This is like industrial electronic music, and just the sounds your creature makes when he, like, hits himself off the wall are just, like, really aggressive and intense. And so it just kind of, it gets your blood moving. Josh, have you managed to find that?
Yeah, I'm looking at this. Wow, this is really visually unique.
Yeah, and so the VR implementation, they kind of didn't really have to do anything except give you a 3D camera and a story, pretty straightforward to translate if you're still going to rely on, a controller to play it. And it's done well, and it is a really cool experience. However, much like Redout, I realized I actually preferred playing it on a monitor, and I finished that way because as cool as it is to be in VR in any game, I think nearly any game benefits from VR. The thing is I didn't feel like I really had an opportunity, because of how fast the game is, to enjoy what I was seeing and the fact that I was in this place. You're effectively staring directly at your character and never blinking and never moving your eyes away from him. And so if that's how your eyes are working, like, how much can you really appreciate the feeling that you're in this place?
Right, that makes sense.
And so I'd play it on my monitor, which is a higher frame rate and resolution than my VR headset. Not everyone would have the same scenario. Maybe if you have a normal 1080p 60 hertz monitor, then VR is going to be better for you. But for me, since I wasn't really appreciating the VR anyway, like, you're not, how much sense of depth are you really getting if you're not moving your head at all? You're just staring at one creature and not blinking and not, you can't even look up at the obstacles coming at you, because by the time you've adjusted your eyes to look up at it, it's hit your character anyway. Right. So you just really need to like if you saw my face, you'd be like, are you okay, man? Just the way it makes you space right the hell out.
That's how I generally look at your face, though, is, oh man, are you all right?
Yeah. And so that being the case, the monitor was the better experience for me anyway, because I could actually, like, my monitor is 144 hertz, so the higher frame rate made this really challenging fast game easier, and I just got more immersion out of the clean picture and fast frame rate than I did out of the headset. It's still really good in VR. That's just going to be my preference here on this one. And I strongly recommend this, whether you have VR or not. It just felt like a really rewarding game. I felt like it was my fault when I lost, and I earned it when I won. And it's just a really challenging rhythm game. So with a really unique vibe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think once I get my VR headset back, it's going to be a new segment I call I Stole This VR Game from Dalton This Week.
I will probably do the same thing. Let's be honest.
Yeah, Josh, we
can both do.
Yeah, Josh, we haven't set up for you to share my library.
Yeah, might as well share each other's. I may own some games you don't have. We'll see, I guess.
Yeah, why don't we all just?
I guess I'm not willing to bet on it, but we'll
try.
try.
Let's just all share our games and our food and our underwear.
Yeah, especially the underwear part.
Bold of you to assume I own underwear.
You need some underwear, man? I got a few.
I object to it on a spiritual
If you got
level.
those games.
Yeah, I'll trade you some of my underwear for some of your games.
Oh, that sounds like a great trade.
Right?
Yeah, that works out great for me.
I'll throw in some toenails too, bro.
Oh my god, do you guys have anything that's not your bodies to talk about?
Well, since we're speaking about since we're talking about rhythm games right now, if either of you catch the announcement for Cadence of Hyrule a couple weeks back?
I did.
Wait, what?
Oh, this is super cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one. So do you know Crypt of the Necrodancer, Alex? Like the rhythmic. I don't even know how you describe that game. It's a rhythm game. It's kind of like a dungeon crawler, kind of like a roguelike, I guess.
Oh, yeah. I kind of know about it.
Okay, so the people that did Crypt of the Necrodancer, I guess, reached out to Nintendo about trying to do it, trying basically to like release it on the Switch, and they wanted to get some extra content, like some Zelda characters or something to put in there. And apparently Nintendo came back at them and said, "Why don't you just make a whole game?" So I think it's supposed to come out this spring. They're releasing releasing a new Zelda-themed version of Crypt of the Necrodancer. It's a completely new game. It's called Cadence of Hyrule. It's the same general, I guess, gameplay style of Crypt of the Necrodancer, but it's a completely new game built from the ground up, and it is Zelda-themed.
Oh, wow.
I just think it's incredible that Nintendo would do that. That Nintendo, they're not a big fan of like, they're not a big fan of like handing over their property and being like, you do something with this.
I think this is the first time that, you know, a non-first party company has touched the Zelda franchise since those meme games
Since the
on
CDI.
the Philips CDI was the Wand of Gamelon.
Oh shit, guys, do we have to let's play those?
I would love to do that. I would love to do that.
What's really funny
with the
is-
caveat
I would love to hate
that
to do
we all
that.
have to be very drunk.
Well, here's the thing, guys. We might not have to emulate that.
What?
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, my grandfather gave my cousins a Philips CDI with what was it? The Faces of Evil?
The Faces of Evil.
What the
Oh my god.
hell?
Yeah. So I might actually be able to get a physical copy of that game that we can play.
Okay, well then we have to let's play that because that just seems
Wow.
like a thoroughly unique experience.
Yeah. I'll have to get back to you guys on that. I'll have to talk to my aunt. Shout out to my aunt. If you're listening to this, let me borrow your kids' stuff.
Got him. Yeah, but at any rate, no, I think it's really cool that, it seems like this is starting to become kind of a trend with Nintendo in the past couple of years. They're being a little bit more loose with their IP because they had that Mario and Rabbids game that they made with Ubisoft last year for the Switch that was like an XCOM style, like tactical RPG with Mario
And
and
it's
the
apparently
Rayman Rabbids.
actually really good.
Yeah, I haven't played that game myself, but it got really good reviews. People kept saying, like, everyone's sleeping on this game. It's actually incredible. And that was Nintendo collaborating with Ubisoft, so obviously they're a bigger company. The fact that they're willing to work with smaller indie studios, like whoever makes Crypt of the Necrodancer, I wish I had looked this up before the show. I just think that's huge. I think it has huge implications for the kind of games that are going to be possible to be made in the future. I'm just really excited about it.
Yeah, that's something to definitely get excited about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about a lot of things that have been going differently in the industry lately. Things, like Nintendo being more open-minded about that kind of thing. The fact that, like, Microsoft is all in on PC gaming now, and they're opening up the Xbox Live system to everything to the point where Ori and the Blind Forest and Cuphead, which are Microsoft-funded games, are coming to the Switch and using Xbox Live achievements on it. There's a bunch of Sony exclusives showing up on PC now. A bunch of games that there's a bunch of like JRPGs and a lot of like Sega games showing up on PC now, and
We're seeing the singularity of gaming.
I'm seeing a lot less exclusivity.
Yeah, and I'm really excited for that, just because like that means like the titles that got a lot of love by fans can definitely have a huge impact in the industry for like a remake. For example, I'd love to see a Legend of Dragoon remake, not just because it's one of my favorites, but because the English translation on the game was super rough. It had a unique fighting style for the time. You know what I mean? Like those classics that kind of got slept on, they have this huge room for improvement, you know?
Oh, yeah,
They're critically acclaimed. Like Shadow of the Colossus got its remake because it was a huge fan cult thing, and they were like, no, we need a remake of this game because it was so good.
Yeah. But at the same time, we have things in the industry like the Elder Scrolls Blades and Epic Store exclusives to piss me right back off. So you win some, you lose some.
The battle between good and evil wages on as ever. Mm-hmm. Well, we can't be negative about everything all the time, you guys. So sometimes it's nice to focus on these better things.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, so speaking of better things, I went and saw Shazam.
Okay.
And
I've heard nothing but good.
And I'm not real positive on DC, but this is really good.
Really?
This movie
I'm
kind of
glad to
crept
hear you
up
say
on me.
that.
I didn't even realize that it was out until a couple days ago.
I feel like it didn't get marketed real hard, and I think it actually had a much lower budget than any other DC movie.
Huh.
And actually, I think it just had a record low opening for them, despite, in my opinion, within this universe anyway, being the best they've got, which isn't a high standard for me because...
Well, yeah, let's be fair. You're out of all of my friends, you're the one that shits the hardest on DC movies.
I'm back and forth on Man of Steel every time I watch it. I think Batman versus Superman is trash. Suicide Squad is worse trash. Wonder Woman shockingly good. Not great, but like a middle tier Marvel movie for comparison. Justice League, total trash. And I didn't even go to see Aquaman. Apparently people were really happy with it, but honestly, I don't like the approach to Aquaman. I don't really have any interest at all, despite people liking it.
By the way, how long has Aquaman been out? Not to cut you off.
December.
It's like not even a
Because
year, I think.
I'm already seeing trailers for Aquaman 2.
Trailers? That can't be right. You're scrolling through fan trailers or seeing trailers for a home release.
I mean, I was at work and doing my job and just happened to have to go to YouTube for something super important and work related.
Happens to the best
And
of
I
us.
seen on the front of the YouTube's page was an Aquaman 2 trailer.
Nah,
I'm gonna
man,
see if-
you're seeing something that's not real, bro. That movie doesn't have a script or anything.
I'm seeing my quick Googling is telling me that it's slated to come out in 2022.
Oh, it's April Fool's, I think. Maybe I'm an idiot. Yeah, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, I'm seeing a bunch of fan trailers and shit. Anyway,
Well, look at me falling for the joke like a week later.
I don't think it's an April Fool's thing. People just do that shit all the time for the clicks, and then it got to the front page because people were clicking on it. Anyway, supposedly that movie's really good, but I just don't like what Justice League did with Aquaman, and I think they kept going that route in terms of his personality. And like, it's not Jason Momoa. I was really excited for him to be cast for that part, and like, I like visually what they did with him. I'm cool with that, but it's just the personality they gave him. I like the look, not the personality. I think Momoa could have done something better than that if he was asked to. And I don't know if he has creative input. Maybe this is what he wants, but it's doing nothing for me. And Shazam, I think I've said this on the show before, that character is normally of no interest to me whatsoever. I haven't enjoyed him in anything I've seen, whether it's various comics or animated shows or animated movies, whatever. I've never cared for that character. But since they went this full-blown comedy route, like Ant-Man, where it's almost more comedy than action movie, I really loved it. It's easily the best thing this universe has got so
Was
far.
it Shazam that you said that you would hope that John Cena would have gotten the part?
That's who I wanted. Although I was wrong, and Zachary Levi was definitely better and totally killed it.
Okay, good.
And like the kid actors are really good too. Man, they immediately announced that they're definitely working on a sequel despite this actually having a really weak opening for them. And I'm glad they're doing it as quickly as possible because this character stops working once your actors age too much.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
I don't know how old the actors are, but the kid playing Shazam and his friend are 14 years old. So they're 4 years away from being adults. And then the whole concept of child that transforms into Shazam, like the whole thing kind of changes and doesn't quite work the same anymore.
All right, so I have absolutely no idea who Shazam is as a character. So
that must have been real
for
confusing
me and
then.
Potentially any other users that are under the same rock, can I get a quick rundown of what Shazam is?
Wow, that must have been really confusing for you.
It was.
Shazam has a
I thought
really
he was a group of 5 kids.
No, he has a really complicated history in terms of like his origin being changed and his name being changed and legal matters getting in the way and whatnot. So I guess the important bit to understand is that Shazam is a young child who is granted powers by a wizard named Shazam. The hero's name isn't actually Shazam, but sometimes they call him that
Captain
anyway.
Marvel,
it's
isn't it?
inconsistent. Yes and no. It changes all the time. In any case, he's given these powers by a character named Shazam, and when he says the name Shazam, it transforms him into like an idealized superhero version of himself. So it's what he would look like if he were an adult at peak fitness and everything, but then he has a bunch of superpowers, and it kind of gives off like a Superman kind of vibe in that like classic 40s spandex and a cape kind of way.
Okay.
And just in the ridiculous absurdity of his power levels, that kind of thing. And the thing is in the prior like versions of the character I've seen, they never played it for enough comedy. And I don't know, it just doesn't work for me when you play the character as serious. And this movie went comedy all the way, and it's just, you know, this 14-year-old kid and his nerdy comic book loving 14-year-old friend just enjoying the fact that he suddenly has these powers, and, you know, just the humor all comes naturally out of that, and it's really charming, and it feels more like an 80s coming of age movie than a 2010s superhero movie. And man, now it's in a weird spot where a few movies ago, before Wonder Woman, this universe had nothing good to work with. And I was like, man, they should just reboot this trash and start over in a few years. And then I'm sitting in the theater watching Wonder Woman, and a half hour in, I'm like, shit, this is really good. And I'm like, what do you do now? You can't reboot now. You have a really good Wonder Woman. And then Suicide Squad is trash and yada yada. Now they're in a place where they've got things working really well for them and things that are awful. And it's like, I think at this point they should just take the approach that Fox had with X-Men, where you ignore any idea of continuity and you use whatever characters played by whatever actors you want and screw it. Like, they're in an awkward place where they started building a universe where their Batman actor is now gone. Their Superman actor is probably gone. Nobody likes their version of the Joker. But yet you have a Wonder Woman people love and an Aquaman people love and now a Shazam that people love. And what do? You don't start over now, but how do you do like Justice League when you can't get people to care about Batman and Superman now? And at this point, I just say, screw it. Pretend every movie is its own movie. That's what Fox did with X-Men. And it might have confused people a little, but they still managed to get some great movies out of it. I mean, that's the James Bond approach too, is just ignore any idea of continuity and screw it.
Yeah, that's very fair.
Except for the Craig movies.
Oh, man.
The Daniel Craig movies, I think, were all in the same continuity.
Yeah, I think that's true. I haven't actually seen any of them, but for most of the history, they do things where like two different actors playing James Bond would be implied to be totally different continuities because the events don't line up between them. But then like a villain from the prior continuity would show up again in this one. And you're like, oh, so they are tied together, and they just kind of made it up as they went along. But I think lately, yeah, they have stopped doing that and it's been consistent. But in any case, I'm intrigued and confused to see where this universe goes. And
yeah,
I recommend this movie.
Do you think that Shazam you maybe enjoyed more because it's kind of a departure from the super grim, dark kind of air that most DC Comics movies have had around them?
Getting away from the razor's edge.
It certainly makes it stand out from the crowd, but I don't think I ever really had a problem with those movies being dark. I think they all sucked for other reasons. Like, The Dark Knight is still wonderful, and Logan is like a top 3 superhero movie for me, and that's pretty damn dark. And no, I don't really think that bothers me.
I still need to see Logan.
It's really good, dude.
That's what everyone keeps telling me. I don't know why I haven't seen it yet.
Whoa,
because you don't watch movies.
I just had a thing come full circle for me.
Go on.
Okay, Josh, I'm usually the one that gets bitched at by Dalton constantly about, you need to see this movie. And I'm like, dude, I'm either broke or busy. And he's like, but you need to see it. And it was finally nice to be like, oh, I haven't seen Logan yet. And I'm like, dude, watch it. It's really good. And I'm also sort of judging you for not seeing it yet.
Yeah, I didn't say anything about it.
And now I understand how it feels to be Dalton. Kind of shitty.
You guys got anything else to talk about?
I do. In, I guess, kind of a rare occurrence for me these days.
Did you watch a movie?
No, even rarer. I watched some anime. I finished.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I finished watching the second season. The finale recently just aired for Mob Psycho 100. I don't know if this is a show that either of you are familiar with.
I do not know a thing about it.
Do you know One Punch Man?
I do. I've only watched one episode of One Punch Man.
Okay.
Indubitably.
Well, this is a show written by the same guy that wrote One Punch Man, and the art style's very similar as well. The basic premise of the show is that it centers on a kid in middle school, as a lot of animes do. This kid is a psychic in a world where psychic powers and ghosts and things like that exist. And for whatever reason, actually a lot like One Punch Man, he's just like so absurdly powerful that nobody else in the world even comes close to him. One Punch Man kind of has the same premise, except in that show, it's played a lot for comedy. Like, One Punch Man will set up a bunch of situations where there are like really threateningly drawn villains that have all these like absurdly evil plans, and they spend half the episode gloating about how powerful they are and how nobody can stand a chance to them, and then they die in one hit to main character. Mob Psycho 100 is a little bit different. It's more of I really don't know how to describe this show. It's more of a character study, I guess. What's interesting and what really drew me into this show is that it doesn't go the route with characterization that you think it might when the main character is so clearly overpowered compared to the challenges he has to face. Mob, which is the nickname of the main character, he doesn't really see his powers as anything special. He is trying, like, his whole goal, everything that he wants to do over the course of the show is better himself as a person, because he thinks that having these absurdly powerful psychic powers isn't making him special, and in a lot of cases he actually thinks it's a curse at times, because he can't always control his powers. When he has emotional outbursts, he loses control and he can hurt people that are close to him. So basically, it's really hard to not give away what I loved so much about this show without spoiling it, because it just consistently doesn't do what you would expect it to do. All of the characters are really well done. Mob's got this mentor who is also is a guy that runs a psychic business, but he's a total fraud and doesn't have any psychic powers at all, and constantly like calls Mob in to perform exorcisms for him because he can't see the ghosts at all. He doesn't even know they're there, and even if he did, he doesn't know how to get rid of them. But he'll bring in Mob and say like, oh yeah, this guy's so weak that I can't even see him, so come in and handle this for me. And Mob's a stupid kid, so he believes him.
Okay.
But his master is my favorite. Is my favorite character in the whole show. He's hilarious, and you come to find out is he's definitely a con man, but he's not as much of a jerk as he might appear at first. I would really highly recommend this show. The second season, it's a follow-up to the season 1, which was like, I think came out like 2 years ago and was one of my favorite shows at the time. And what the second season did in terms of developing the characters in the world has taken it. This is probably one of my top 5 favorite shows right now. And granted, I don't watch as much anime as I used to, but this avoids so many of the classic storytelling pitfalls of anime shows that have caused me to write off a lot of shows in the past. It's really fresh and unique, and there's going to be at least one character in the show that you fall in love with if you watch it. So all in all, I'd highly recommend checking out Mob Psycho 100. And to a lesser extent, One Punch Man. I think One Punch Man is actually a more popular show in general, but I think Mob is better.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to check that one out for sure.
I didn't really care for One Punch Man, but I'll check this one out. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to go and watch One Punch Man, but at the same time, there was a lot that I was trying to watch at that time.
I mean, I'm alone in not caring for it, so give it a shot. Most people like it. All right, I guess before we go out, I'm just going to honorable mention two things real quick that I don't have a lot to say about, but I did watch it, so I'm going to mention it. Josh, I think I only discussed it before you came back, but I started rewatching Game of Thrones. Don't know if we...
I don't think we touched on that last week, but it's a really good idea.
Well, because of my work trip, I fell drastically behind on that rewatch attempt, and we are less than a week out from the next episode now, and I've only just managed to finish season 3. So,
as of recording this, we are less than a week out.
Yes, as of releasing this, the episode's already happened, and I bet it was fantastic.
That's right. I can't believe that they used the role of Peter Dinklage from Marvel's Avengers inside of Game of Thrones. How did they even do that?
Yeah, what a weird crossover.
He was the dwarf, but also the largest one.
You know what? I think you're actually going to be fine having only made it through season 3. Kyla told me that she recently watched an interview with Maisie Williams, and whoever was interviewing asked her. Oh, I don't know. I actually didn't see the interview, but apparently the interviewer asked Maisie, if you're only going to watch one season because there's a ton of content to catch up on and ain't nobody got time for that, which season should you rewatch to be most caught up going into the finale? And she actually said season 1.
Season 3. Oh.
She said season 1 is actually the best one to get caught up on because apparently a lot of things are going to come full circle and a lot of loose ends are going to get wrapped up that you might not even realize what's happening had you not had a refresher of things that happened very early on in the series. So you may actually be in exactly the place you need to be, Dalton.
Yeah, okay. Well, if that pays off, I will be drastically impressed. On that note, all I'm going to say, because I'm going to bring up every season. I can't, unless we're going to start doing spotlights, I can't say a whole lot about all of them. But I'll just say Red Wedding is one of the best episodes of television ever. And I could rewatch this show a million times and it will never get old ever. Although...
If we spotlight this, we're going to have to do a synopsis and not just go season by season because that's just too much.
No, I was thinking scene by scene. So like spotlight episode 1, scene 1. That's what I was thinking.
So
if you guys just want to become a Game of Thrones themed show for the next 2 months,
yeah,
I'd be totally down for that.
For the North.
Well, everyone better stay caught up because we're at least definitely spotlighting the final season. Anyway, I also watched, this was a discussion while you were gone, Josh. I started Superstore, and so just now I finished season 2. My season 1 feelings were that it was worth watching, but it was nothing particularly special. It was good enough that I was going to keep going. Season 2 improved pretty significantly just because, as most comedy shows do, they just got a better feel for what they were trying to do and who the characters really are, and just got a better vibe for the general flow. And so I'm a little more impressed with it this time around. Still super worth watching. Still going to keep going.
Yeah, I definitely think that season 2 is a big improvement over season 1 there.
2 things I want to add to what Dalton said here. Dalton has never felt the bittersweet experience of retail. And 2, Josh, there was a show on YouTube that I watched that when you started talking about Superstore, it reminded me of it, but I couldn't think of the name. It was Rostered On. It's like a technology business-esque store, and it's just about the cast and their retail experiences with a bunch of a-holes.
Okay.
And that one hit me a little harder because I was a business tech store kind of associate at a particular franchise. And I don't know if that one's going to make you laugh as hard as it did for me, but Rostered On, it was a few years ago that I watched it. I don't know if they still do it or not, but I'm going to have to check it out and see if they do, just because it was pretty good.
Yeah, if it's on YouTube, you should send me a link to an episode. I'll check it out.
Yeah, we'll do, man.
To be honest, I'm not really sure that Superstore does a whole lot of like basing the comedy around that situation, except for like the cutaway gags Josh mentioned, where you'll interrupt a scene just to see a customer doing something strange for a few seconds.
That's still my favorite.
Outside of that, I don't think there's a whole lot going on where it's like, oh, that's particularly funny because I relate to it. I could be wrong, but
okay.
There are tiny
it's really
moments
just
here and there that you'll definitely appreciate more if you have worked retail.
yeah, I think the setting is generally just like an excuse to have this set of characters constantly surrounded by each other. Like, it's just a group of people that all work the same shift and we never see anything outside the store, and it's just, here's our excuse for why these characters are always together.
Yeah, it's like The Office, but inside of Walmart instead of Office.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to do some Superstore watching. But yeah, Josh, I'll definitely send you a link to Rosterdon because it was really funny from what I remember.
All right, great.
Yeah. All right. So with that, I think we're done here, and we're going to move on to our Zelda 2 spotlight, and we'll see you guys there. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.